G'day. We are on our way home now. We've just run into a bit of an issue. We took the back roads from Indy over to Hillston, and now I'm stuck in Griffith with what appears to be quite a major problem happening on my front passenger's tyre. We were noticing that it was pulling over to the left, so the brakes were sort of grabbing, lots of clunking sounds, and then this was so hot that you couldn't actually touch it. That's the hub was so hot you couldn't touch it. So I've got to do a little bit of a roadside repair. Got the wheel off the ground, and the only thing holding this wheel on is the brake caliper. Oops. Pretty prepared though. Bag of rags from Vinnie's. Trusty old book. Bearing kit. All the seals I need. Brake clean. And hopefully all the tools I need are in that kit there. Let's see what happens. I've just removed the brake caliper, and you can see here that we're getting a whole heap of movement, which is not supposed to be happening. And I can hear that things are pretty ground down. And I'll clean the brakes up a bit later on. I'm going to get into the business and make sure that I haven't busted anything too bad, so that we are still able to keep rolling home. So I was just trying to free this up by trying to get into where basically the bearings tighten, and the whole thing just fell off. So we were pretty lucky, because really the only thing holding this on was the brake caliper. Rightio, we're into a bit of a fun part here. The axles definitely got a little bit of oil in it, but not as much as I thought. So it seems I'm this far, I might as well change that seal anyway. And I've got the grease to replace this stuff. But what the problem is that something's been chewed up a bit in that freewheeling hub, and I got metal everywhere in there, and it's not letting me take this little axle stub off the actual axle. Oh, and I can feel the metal in there. And we don't want that metal going anywhere else. Oh dear. There it is. Oh, now that's a problem. That's a bearing. That's seen better days, I think. It's a really greasy job, this one, folks. You can see I'm absolutely churning through the Aldi paper towel rather than ruining my rags at this point. Well, I think we've been fortunate there. It doesn't look too badly damaged. But you can see that this is the sort of chunks of metal. I only did this job not that long ago, which is pretty disappointing that I'm doing it again. But that happens. And this is a slightly different issue. Yeah, in the absence of good tools, you use what you got to try and get the seals out. Lucky I bought a new one of these, or two. Hey, that's having a win. Okay, so got the seal out, which is fantastic, and now I'm just going to cover that over and start prepping up for what's happening here. So I'll clean up the axle stub a little, just double check it's not too buggered, and then we'll start digging into the hub system. I found a nice little spot in the sun now. It's about 1:30 in the afternoon. I've been on this job for about 2 hours, just over, and been chasing a new spindle hub, because what happened was the lock nuts and tab, the washer that was with these must have let go in those sort of rough roads between Menindee and here, and it's basically unwind on the spindle hub, loosened all the bearings off, thrown off the circlip, and so this thing is looking a little worse for wear, ladies and gents, and particularly the thread. So I haven't been able to get another one of these anywhere in town. Apparently there's one in Tumut, which is not much good to me, even though I'm passing through there. So what I've got to do is fix the thread on this. Fortunately, I picked up a few hacksaw blades out of Spin's shed when I was over in Sagina, and I'm going to cut a new thread for that. Robin's just heading up to Repco to pick up a few nuts to throw on here, and fortunately the bearing kit that I got this morning came with a locking washer, so that's where I'm at the moment, just cutting a new thread. So just slowly making my way around the thread. I've just got off the phone to Robin. She was successful in getting some locking nuts for us, and they're on their way back. Then we'll start reassembling. We should be out of here by dinner time, hopefully. Making slow progress on this, but it is turning back into a thread slowly, which is very exciting. I've been working on this for an hour, folks, and we're getting closer. Alright, so I've got the nut going onto the spindle. Just going to try and thread it nice and calmly. I've put some oil on there, see if we can get it to thread before I put it all back together. Well, I think that's the hard part done, folks. So let's just put the seals back together, bearings back in, see how we go. Cool, so I'm just replacing the axle seal now. I've slipped it in there and give it a tap in until she's nice and flush. Lovely. Give you mob a bit of a gaze. So you can see that slip the oil seal in. Next is the axle. Just going to put a little bit of grease on the inside of that seal in there, and that'll stop the spring from popping out when I push the axle through. And I'm going to put the axle in. A little flat thing at the top as you go in. Holding it nice and tight. Hopefully it'll just slip in. Okay. Oh, yeah. Cool. Alright. lovely. Now I've just got a packet full of grease, folks. Using a black molly grease here. You just got to totally fill it up. Gloves would be good for this job, but somebody forgot them when he was shopping. Okay, so I have the dust cover on there now. I'm just going to run around and nip them up. I'd usually use a torque wrench on this job, but I don't have one here. So I'm going to make sure these are nice and tight, and then when I get home next week, I'm going to put a new spindle hub on anyway, because this one's pretty knackered, and I'll make sure everything's set to the right torque setting then. Once more round with the breaker bar. My brother-in-law once told me that it's a fine line between snapping someone's bolts and getting it just right. Just cleaning up the hub, and I will be freewheeling the whole way home, so it won't be too important. This axle shouldn't lock in, so that's one thing that I'm aiming for, and it's not quite as centered as I'd like it to be. I think it'll be okay. We'll get home, and then yeah, this whole unit will have a bit of a rebuild. Okay, next stop is wheel bearings. So this soil tool also works for replacing the bearing housings. Make sure there's nothing too awry in there. A few minor nicks, nothing major. Just basically knock it down until it goes donk. Close. There you have it. That's been a pretty big day here in Griffith, and we've got the hub back together and it's solid as a rock. So we're heading home to Candlelay tonight, which is fantastic. And yeah, you know, a bit of bush mechanics there. You just got to deal with what the blows that you get. Unfortunately, there's no spindle hubs here in Griffith, so I've got to go and get some in Candlelay when I get back that way. But I think we've done a good job, and we're going to get home tonight. Well, we're up to a very exciting part of the project now, folks. That's putting the tyre back on. Hopefully, driving 600 kilometres or so and getting home tonight. Perfect. Just while I'm doing this, I thought I'd remind you all that it's just totally general in nature, these things, and there's some really great people out there doing it who are actually qualified. I'm a musician, not a mechanic. The total spend today has been about $250, and that includes a few tools that I bought. So that's not too bad, considering it's got us back on the road. We don't have to stay an extra night waiting for parts to get here, and it's cost me a day of my time, but that's the way it is. Thanks for tuning in to Refuse Revival, and yeah, I look forward to bringing you more videos. Anytime I'm doing something on the Landcruiser, I'm going to share that with you all, because it seems to be pretty popular. So enjoy your day.